history as just a bunch of dates and famous battles, but today we're going to do something a little different. We're going to listen in on a conversation, an incredible 2,000-year-long debate from ancient India all about the meaning of life itself.
See, at the heart of every single culture, you find the same big questions, right? Who are we? What are we doing here? And, maybe the biggest, most persistent question of them all,
this isn't some modern anxiety? Nope. This is a question that our most ancient ancestors wrestled with, and in ancient India, it fueled this massive intellectual explosion. They didn't just wonder about it. They decided to tackle it head-on.
And you can see this spirit of just fearless questioning in their oldest stories. There's this one amazing tale about a young boy, Nachiketa, who literally comes face-to-face with Yama, the god of death. And he's not scared. He actually demands answers about what comes next. It just goes to show you how much this culture valued the hunt for truth, no matter how scary the topic.
So, where did this epic conversation even begin? Well, the starting point for this whole intellectual journey is a collection of sacred texts we call the Vedas.
The name itself tells you so much. The word Veda comes from the Sanskrit root vid, which literally means to know. So these weren't just prayer books. They were the foundation of all knowledge for this civilization, a huge library of hymns, instructions for rituals, and deep philosophical ideas.
Now, this body of knowledge is split into four main parts: the Rig, Sama, Yajur, and Atharva Vedas. The oldest one, the Rig Veda, is this incredible collection of hymns, and its creation started way, way back, around 1500 BC.
And here's the part that just blows my mind. How was all this knowledge saved? For over 2,000 years, before anything was even written down, all of these incredibly complex texts were passed down orally. Priests would spend their entire lives memorizing and reciting thousands of verses with perfect precision. It's truly one of the most staggering feats of human memory in history.
This timeline really helps put it all in perspective. So you have the early Vedic period, starting around 1500 BCE, which was all about rituals and hymns. But then, look what happens around 600 BCE. Something shifts, the conversation just explodes, and that leads to this whole new wave of much deeper philosophical thinking.
And this new wave of thinking, this explosion of ideas, leads us to the Upanishads. These texts are kind of like the philosophical grand finale of the Vedas. And this is where the conversation takes a huge turn, away from outward rituals and deep, deep inside the self. The thinkers of this time started asking much deeper questions. It wasn't just about doing the right ceremony anymore. The whole focus shifted from what to why. What is the real nature of my own self, my consciousness, what they called the Atman? And how does my personal little spark connect to Brahman, the ultimate cosmic reality of the entire universe?
And get this culture of questioning wasn't just for a few guys meditating in a cave. It was out in the open, it was public, and it was intense. There's this famous story of a brilliant female philosopher named Gargi Vashakovnevi who stood up in a royal court and publicly challenged one of the most famous sages of her time, a guy named Yajnavalkya.
Her question is it's beautiful. It's so simple, but so profound. Using the image of a loom, she asks, what is the fundamental fabric that the entire universe is woven out of? That question perfectly captures the whole point of the Upanishads, to find that single underlying truth of everything.
Well, once you create an environment where questions like that are encouraged, it's only natural that people are going to come up with some very different answers. The floodgates opened. The conversation wasn't just limited to one tradition anymore. New thinkers popped up, challenging everything and offering totally new ways to find the truth.
And among the most powerful of these new voices were the founders of two movements that would grow into major world religions, Buddhism and Jainism. They came along and offered completely new ways of looking at the world, really shaking up the old system and leaving a legacy that's still with us today.
So what made them so different? Well, while the older tradition was built on the absolute authority of the Vedas and on performing complex rituals, these new schools said, hold on a minute. They basically rejected that authority and put the focus instead on personal ethics, on meditation, and on a radical idea of nonviolence, which they called ahimsa.
And the variety of ideas was just incredible. You had Buddhism, which was all about finding a path to end suffering. You had Jainism, with its extreme commitment to nonviolence for every living thing. And then you had the total wild card, the Charvakata school. In an age filled with gods and rebirth, these guys were complete materialists. They said there's no soul, no afterlife, no gods. The only thing that's real is what you can see and touch right now. So they said, just enjoy your life, because this is it.
So what do we make of all this? What's the lasting impact of this incredible period of intellectual debate and discovery?
Well, the real legacy wasn't about finding a single final answer. The true legacy was the conversation itself. This period created this powerful, long-lasting culture of philosophical debate, critical thinking, and a really remarkable acceptance of different ideas.
And what's really crucial to understand is that these different schools of thought weren't in their own little bubbles. No, they were in a constant dialogue, arguing with each other, borrowing ideas, and sharpening their own arguments. Just like this quote says, Buddhist thinkers would take ideas from the Upanishads and give them a new polish. It was a truly living, breathing intellectual ecosystem.
And so we end right back where we started, with the big questions. That same search for meaning that drove those thinkers thousands of years ago, it's still with us. Their great conversation helped shape the world we live in. So the question for us, really, is what are the great questions driving our conversation today? And what kind of legacy will we leave behind?